I am joined again by Dr. Diana Howard, and we've got some party tricks to talk about. The subject today is pH and the importance of pH for the skin and for products. When Dermalogica was developed, we became more famous for what we left out, our Dermalogica differences of no mineral oil, no lanolin, no SD alcohol, no formaldehyde, no artificial color, no artificial fragrance, than what we kind of used in the product. But one of the difference that was always very important to Dermalogica was that the products were always slightly acidic in keeping with the pH of a healthy skin. And along the way, I find that's discussed less and less, especially in training programs. And it's a really important issue to understand as a skin therapist and a great demonstration to share with your clients. The importance of acidity in the skin, the importance of maintaining the natural, what we call acid mantle of the skin, really inhibits bacterial invasion into the skin. So it's a very, very important part of the skin's protection against microbes and bacteria. But we've now learned, Diana, haven't we, that pH and that acidic mantle or acidity in the skin is important for a lot of other reasons too.
That's right. We've come a long way. And we know now that when the skin's natural pH, 4.5 to 5.5, when it becomes elevated, which can happen as simple as washing your hands with soap and water, you now have a playground, a breeding ground for the microorganisms to grow. But on top of that, and we know that certain microorganisms that can cause infection like Staphylococcus and Pseudomonas, they thrive on a pH that is more alkaline, above 7, than a lower natural acidic pH of our skin. But we also know now that the area in between the cells of our skin, the interstitial spaces, are where the enzymes are that are responsible for normal exfoliation or desquamation, as we call it. And when the pH goes above 7, these enzymes become hyperactive. It's like enzymes on steroids. And what they do is they start sloughing the skin more readily than they should. And so what do you get when you get dry skin? You get flakiness. The skin is starting to exfoliate.
It's like an eczema
Absolutely.
or a psoriasis. I mean, the psoriasis is just a buildup of the platelets of the
Yes.
skin.
And what also we know now is the cells kind of swell. And instead of being really tight and compact like you want the layers of your roof to keep the rain out, they start to swell, and there's places in between where the environment, chemicals from the environment can now penetrate, and the moisture that's in the deeper layers of the skin can start to evaporate out through transepidermal water loss. So we're getting a more dehydrated skin that is prone to sensitization because now chemicals from the environment can now penetrate and get down and affect the nerves. So it's not just about killing the microorganisms, it's about maintaining a hydrated tissue, it's about warding off sensitization of the skin. It's about controlling the normal desquamation. All of these things we now know today, and we didn't really know back then that why pH was so important.
Right, we used to talk about acidity of the surface of the skin. I mean, the internal body is slightly alkaline, 7.3 blood, but the external surface is acidic. And now, as you're explaining, the interstitial fluid between the cells, that needs to be kept compact, because we know it's rather like even if the cuticle's raised on your hair, it's dull and dry and your hair color doesn't last as long. And on the skin, you just get eczema and dermatitis and dryness and dullness and none of the things that we want. And so to maintain the skin in an acidic state is really important. And that's one of the reasons why, as skin therapists, we don't recommend any alkaline products being used on the skin, with the exception of when we're doing galvanic current and we're using a disincrustation solution. Now, scaling fluid, our own Dermalogica scaling fluid, is not alkaline, but traditionally in the industry, we use an alkaline pH purposely to open up the follicles, but you always reacidify the skin afterwards because you want to leave it in an acidic state. So some years ago, and you're right, it's about 30 years ago when I first started learning about pH and understanding it, and then understood why, as a shampoo girl on a Saturday as a teenager, I would get really bad dermatitis from using alkaline shampoos. When I started understanding acidity in the pH, I used to do a little party trick demonstration to my clients, which I'm going to show you now, Diana.
I can't wait.
I know. So here I'm going to show the PhD, Dr. Diana Howard, my party trick of illustrating pH. All right, so I have a bowl of water. It's like a magic trick. I have a bowl of water. The pH of distilled water is about 7. It's neutral. And I want to talk a little bit about the skin. So here I have a pH pencil. and I have a pH meter, sort of a grid. And what this basically shows is from the most acidic, which is a pink, which is probably like battery acid, that's not good either, all the way up to the most alkaline, which is a blue. And the skin is normally 4.5 to 5.5, so it would be slightly yellow. And so if I look at my skin, I damp it with water, because we have to have that ability to measure the skin by putting water there, and I actually stroke the pencil on my skin in its healthy state is 4.5 to 5.5, and that's what we want, isn't it? Absolutely perfect. Good. If we look at special cleansing gel, which is one of our, of course, dermalogica cleansers and one of our most popular, I just activate that. We look at that, and very nice. Also yellow, matches the skin, and so the pH of the skin is maintained by using special cleansing gel as your cleanser. All good. So clients sometimes say, all right, well, I'm sure, what I'm using is also, great, and I think that I'm probably using a similar product, but not so fast. First of all, how many people have you heard, or you've heard, use ivory soap, or a similar soap, no diss against ivory? How many of you ever heard using Comet on their skin to cleanse it? Not so many. All right, but let me just show you something. I wet the skin, and now I'm going to use a little Comet. Now you might say, well, for goodness sake, no one's going to use Comet on their skin. I understand, but let's just see why you wouldn't. Whoa! Okay, so you can see. The Comet is completely alkaline. It's probably why it does such a good job, removing every bit of grime on a kitchen surface. You would never use that on your skin. It would be stripping and drying. But you might have clients that use ivory soap, and if we look at that,
not
wow,
much difference.
Not much difference. And if we rinse off with water, so then we've rinsed off our Comet, etc., and you can see that then, after you've used special cleansing gel and rinsed that off, you've basically re-acidified, re-established the acid mantle on the skin. So when I would show my clients this, and I would explain to them, feel comfortable bringing your, your bar of soap and let me test it, because it could be any of them.
Absolutely.
Soaps all work the same way. It's a completely different system to a special cleansing gel. It had a dramatic effect, because not only by using an alkaline cleanser, you might say someone use this one, which would be way too stripping on the skin. You're not only stripping the acid mantle and exposing the skin to bacterial infection, but now we know if you do use an alkaline product, you are stripping the acid mantle, exposing the skin to bacterial infection, and the potential of the interstitial fluid evaporating and leaving the skin vulnerable to dehydration, dermatitis.
And one of the things we might want to add is we have in the shave line the bar, and that is, I don't want people to mistake that is alkaline like the ivory soap bar.
Right, it's
That's
not a
what's
soap.
No, it's called a Syndet bar, and what that basically means is it's the solid form of the same kind of a system we have in special cleansing gel. And if you did that same test with that, you'd find that it is in the acid balance range.
So it's a solid cleansing bar,
Yes.
not a soap. That's a really important point to make, because I think a lot of people think a soap is a soap is a soap.
A bar is a bar, exactly.
A bar is a bar is a bar. I mean, the other thing, of course, with a bar of soap in a shower is, let's be honest, people are washing bottoms and tops with the same bar. It's
Tell
really
that to the man.
disgusting. I know, it's so disgusting. So we need to have our conditioning body wash in the shower and our facial cleansers out near the sink, and not kind of mix the two up. So I thank you for indulging me, Diana, with my pH demonstration. Not nearly as smart and fancy as your pH meters that I see in the lab.
Does this mean I get to do some skincare treatments on the face?
Well, you know what? We could work on that. Let
Okay.
me work on some simple techniques here. Let's start with some underarm waxing. So it's been a great deal of fun. Looking forward to answering your questions. Please keep them coming. We love to address concerns or anything you'd like us to talk about. And we'll see you next time.